All right, let's talk about something that feels straight out of sci-fi, but trust me, it's very real. We're diving into the Helios weapon system. And, spoiler alert, it is so much more than just a big laser.
Okay, so think about this for a second. You've got this massive, multi-billion-dollar warship out on the ocean. How does it protect itself from things like, say, a whole swarm of small, fast drones, or a bunch of those little attack boats trying to just overwhelm it? It's a huge, huge problem for modern navies, and that's exactly what we're getting into. Yeah, we're not talking about old-school naval battles here. We're talking about unmanned drones that can spy on you or attack you, and these super quick boats that can just zoom in out of nowhere. The scary part? They're cheap, they're a pain to track, and they pose a massive risk to these incredibly expensive ships.
And that's where our solution comes in. Today, we're going to break down the system that was built specifically to take on these new kinds of threats. It's called HELIOS.
So the name, Helios, it's actually an acronym, and it pretty much gives the whole game away. It stands for High Energy Laser with Integrated Optical-Dazzler and Surveillance. See? Right there in the name, you know it's not just a laser. It's a multi-tool, a real Swiss Army knife of a weapon.
And honestly, that's the key thing you got to remember about this whole system. Its real power isn't just the pew-pew laser part. It's how it combines all these different jobs into one seamless package. That combination is what makes it such a huge deal.
Okay, so how does it work? Well, it's got this super effective three-step mission. Think of it like this. First, it uses its advanced sensors, that's the long-range ISR part, to find the threat. Step 2, if that threat is trying to aim at the ship, Helios can use its Optical-dazzler to basically blind its sensors. And finally, Step 3, it can unleash that high-energy laser to completely destroy the target. So it finds them, blinds them, and fries them. Simple as that.
What this all means is that a ship's commander now has a whole range of options. They can go from a non-lethal warning shot, just dazzling the enemy, all the way to total destruction. And it all comes from one system, and it all happens at the speed of light. That's not just an improvement, it's a total game changer for how you defend a ship.
So you can see why the Navy is so excited about this, right? Let's dig into the specific advantages that really make Helios stand out.
All right, this table really lays out its strengths perfectly. First, it's marinized. That's just a fancy way of saying it's tough enough to live on a ship at sea. It's flexible, which we talked about, gives the commander options. But let's zoom in on a couple of these. Deep magazine? That's huge. It means it runs on the ship's electricity, so as long as the ship has fuel, this thing can keep firing. You literally can't run out of bullets like you would with missiles. And affordable? This might be the biggest deal of all. It's about the cost-exchange ratio. Think about it. You don't want to fire $1 million missile to take down a cheap $10,000 drone, right? With Helios, each shot costs like pennies on the dollar. That completely flips the script on the economics of a fight.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing on paper, but here's the best part. This isn't some far-off concept or a lab experiment. Helios is real, it's proven, and it has already gone from the factory floor to the fleet.
And we're talking about some serious power here. During tests, the system was consistently hitting power levels over 60 kilowatts. Just so we're clear, this is not some dinky little prototype. This is a full-strength, military-grade laser that has already proven what it can do.
And you want to hear something really impressive? Look at how fast this all happened. Lockheed Martin got the contract in 2018. By 2021, just 3 years later, the first system was already being delivered to be put on a warship. In the world of military hardware, that is lightning fast. It just shows you how mature and well-run this program was.
And this is where it gets really real. That first Helios system, it's not sitting in a warehouse somewhere. It is installed on a frontline U.S. Navy destroyer and Arleigh Burke class, and it's wired right into the legendary Aegis combat system. It is sailing on the ocean as we speak.
And this isn't some one-off custom job either. Helios was built to be adaptable. They designed it with what's called an open architecture, which basically means it's plug and play. It can be put on aircraft carriers, big amphibious ships, and it can work with different combat systems across the Navy. This thing was designed to be used everywhere. I love this quote from Joe Ottaviano at Lockheed Martin because it explains why this worked so well. He says it came down to system engineering rigor and using mature technology. In other words, they didn't try to invent everything from scratch. They used smart, solid engineering and built on stuff they already knew worked. That's how they delivered a working system so quickly. Okay, so Helios is officially here. It's in the fleet. The big question now is, what's next? What does this mean for the future of naval warfare? Well, for today, its job is crystal clear:
to be a super effective, affordable, and precise defense against those drone and fastbow threats we talked about. It's solving a very real problem that exists right now.
But the system was built with growth in mind. The long-term plan is to keep cranking up the power, making it strong enough to take on even bigger, badder threats. We're talking about things like anti-ship cruise missiles. That's the ultimate goal here.
And this quote from Hamid Salim really just nails it. He says, "Laser weapon systems are no longer years away, they're here now. This isn't science fiction anymore. This isn't a what if. The age of laser weapons at sea has officially started."
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. For decades, naval combat has always been this complicated math problem of how much your weapons cost and how many you can carry. But what happens to all that? What happens to strategy, to tactics, to the very idea of naval power when the cost of firing a weapon drops to almost nothing and your magazine is basically infinite? That's the truly revolutionary question that Helios forces us to ask.